Anyway, so he was like, okay, Antoine, I'm going to close all my companies and move back to France. And it was like during the Christmas holidays, we had some employees, and I was like, whoa, 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 whoa. And then suddenly, boom, something hits the cab. And it was like a dude that was like biking down a hill as fast as you can imagine, crash into the side of the cab. Unfortunately, with success comes problems, not to misquote Notorious B.I.G. here, but more money, more problems, as they say. And when that started, and so it probably got triggered by my stress, and then I was coping with the stress by smoking, and then it made me sick. The candidates experience, the employers experience, the employees. I mean, it's real mess. And I think I figured out a really good way to solve that.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to the Making Your Mark podcast. I'm your host, Mark Bundang, and today I have a very special guest as usual. His name is Antoine de Brabant. Hello, Antoine.
Hello, Mark. How are you?
I'm good. Yourself?
Doing really well. Thanks for having me today.
Awesome. So I know, we've talked before, and in the lead up to this episode. Quickly for the audience, I do want to frame this a little bit, how I know you. And one of the things that really compelled me to reach out to you and invite you on this podcast is you're in the talent acquisition space. And for anyone out there who has struggled with the job hunt, the worst thing for a candidate is they don't get feedback, they don't get responses, they don't have, and the thing that I really loved about your experience that you provided me, Antoine, is that you provided a very good candidate experience. So even if it hadn't worked out, and it didn't, I wasn't a fit, you always gave something, back to the candidate that could be useful somewhere down the line, even if it's just words of encouragement. And to me, that's gold, because no one else, or not many other people, will do that in your type of role. So thank you very much for that. I really appreciate it.
Well, super. I mean, my pleasure, and thanks so much for saying that. I think not to sort of give grace to recruiters, because I'm a more recent recruiter. It can be a very repetitive and constant job, especially if you're doing it for a long time. Sometimes you forget about the human behind the interaction, let's say. And, we're very focused on finding a specific type of candidate for a specific type of job. And sometimes it's not a fit because it's like, oh, you don't speak Mandarin, and it's the only reason, but we don't tell you that feedback. And so it was important for me to tell you, like, I spoke with you, like, you're such a great potential candidate for a potential amazing opportunity. It's not specifically here. You haven't done a operational transformation for a hot dog factory. It's a joke, right? But like, that doesn't mean you're not a great potential candidate somewhere else. And I know it can be like such a daunting experience to, like, you take the time, you're excited, you're like, hey, I'd love to, am I a good fit? And then you get ghosted, or you're like, hey, you're not a generic message, good luck, not even. And it's like, behind that is like, just provide a bit of context, it might change the person's day, month, who knows, right? So that's
Yeah. Well, thank you very much. And yes, it's true. I don't have hot dog factory experience. I'll work on that.
That's a joke. A friend of mine works at Schneider's, which is Schneider's Electric, and our other friend thought she worked at Schneider's, the hot dog factory, for years. So that was a little.
So you know what? As the audience has become accustomed to this tech podcast, we're in the business of telling stories, the stories of people, of how they made their mark, and kind of digging in and seeing how they did it, and what led to it, what kind of mistakes, what kind of triumphs they had that form who you are today. So for the audience, Antoine, would you be able to tell a little bit about your background and how you feel you've made your mark?
Well, thank you. Appreciate it. I mean, look, I don't think I've made my mark yet. Hopefully, I'm going to continue to strive to make the mark that I'd like to make. But I do feel like I've made a mark to maybe people's lives, or at least in the way that I've been able to so far. And like, maybe just connecting with you and giving you some positive feedback, even though it wasn't the right fit, let's say. But yeah, like we talked the first time, I sort of started off. I'm trying to go a little bit way back. Was in university and was studying poli-sci. was sort of passionate about politics, but then quickly realized it's not what I thought it would be. And I was more attracted to entrepreneurship and the impact that you can have as an entrepreneur for various reasons. And I honestly, just like anything in life, there's an opportunity that knocks on the door. So really serendipitous. And it's just a question of like being like, hey, I'm totally interested in exploring this, and then, jumping at the opportunity, right? So obviously I was younger when that happened. I think I was like 21 or something. I bumped into an old friend of mine who's a new boyfriend at the time, who hadn't met in a long time. I haven't seen in a long time. Was a serial entrepreneur, and he was launching a series of startups in Montreal. He was from France, and he sort of asked me to brainstorm for figuring out the name of this company. And there was a name called Wordans, and I was like, wow, that's a terrible name. But I didn't like it at the time. Anyway, so he was asking me, funnily enough, actually my first recruiting ask before the years before anything else, hey, if you can find someone who knows Photoshop, we need to hire someone to run it was a custom t-shirt printing app and website that he was launching with a marketplace. And he needed someone to like run the t-shirt printer and sort of do the graphics to get printed on the t-shirt. And I was like, oh, sure, I'll take a look, whatever. And it was during the summer. It was like between sessions, university sessions, and a couple of months in, I was like, "Oh, I remember this opportunity." And I was like, "I've done Photoshop, like I can do this, So I called him up and I was like, "Hey, I haven't found anyone, but like I've done Photoshop and I can totally do this if you're open to it." And he was like, "Hey, we need someone right away. Can you start tomorrow?" And I was like, let's go. I'm super down. And I remember the first day I arrived, the machines, it's like a new technology. It's like a digital printing for t-shirts. And the machine's in a box. And there's a computer next to the box and with a website, like just like a, sales website or whatever. But actually had the little app where you can order the t-shirts and stuff, just the starting of it, the custom t-shirts. And on the website, it said ships in 24 hours. And he was running Google ad campaigns already. And I was like, the machine's in a box. You have ships in 24 hours. Maybe like ships within 20, like, we ship out within 24 hours, like, type of thing to give us some leeway. He was like, oh, good idea. Let's do that. And anyways, so started my journey, like anything. That's my tip for anyone. If you want to get into, especially in your early career, if you want to get into your first job, or if you want to start your first entrepreneurial project, or you want to join something or whatever, just like, at least the way I see it, do it is like start at the bottom and roll up your sleeves and give it everything and learn and do it with as much passion and care as you can and enthusiasm. And so I became a t-shirt printer, which was not on my resume, for this new startup. I was employee number 2. And so that was the beginning of that journey. And then, like quickly, so many problems. Obviously, like the t-shirt printer didn't work on dark t-shirts well, and it kept on clogging. So I became like a technician trying to fix it, troubleshoot constantly. And it turned into Christmas real quick, and we had so many orders and there was so many problems. And I was like, ship them out. They don't know what they don't know that this is what it's supposed to look like. It's new technology. It wasn't that bad, but it became like, anyways, all his other businesses were not launching the way that he wanted it to. And then this one was like the nail in the coffin for him. It was like just bleeding money because there was a lot of like, and I saw it all because I was on the floor. I was seeing all the problems. I'm like, okay, well, how are we buying an American Apparel t-shirt next door? We were right next to American Apparel for $20, printing it on it, messing it up, and then throwing it away. I mean, that is not sustainable, And so I was seeing all that, and I was trying to give recommendations, but it wasn't my place or time, So, and we became close. Him and I, we became like good friends, and he was like my mentor. And in the meantime, I was like learning about, managing the website, and then sales, SEO, marketing, always getting into like more of the digital side of things. Anyway, so he was like, okay, Antoine, I'm going to close all my companies and move back to France. That's what he told me. And it was like during the Christmas holidays, we had some employees, and I was like, whoa. Like, I was like, hey, here, like, why don't you give me like 3 months? Let me run the show here a little bit. And I think I have a plan to figure this out. And in 3 months, if it doesn't work out, I invite you to close it down and pack your bags. Well, not pack your bags, but like, shut it down. I totally get it, And so he's like, great. And I was like, okay, well, we're not t-shirt printers. We're not a production company, and these machines are not good. We don't, like, they don't work. We're not good at using them. And that's not what our business is. We're really good at bringing in, we're like an app, we're a website, we're a, marketing vehicle, SEO, affiliate marketing, which is all these things that I started putting in place. And I was like, and I had already started figuring out that we can outsource a lot of the orders. So you look at the data, you look at, we have an order of like 30 shirts or sweaters. They're all the same logo, one color. Like, that's screen printing. And I know we can outsource that to screen printers, take a margin, I knew nothing about business, like, I was like, how do you price things? I don't know how to price something, like, is it, am I pricing it too much? So I had to learn along the way, like, well, the competitor's selling this, it's costing us this, all that stuff, right? So I can go a long way in that conversation, but ended up like finding a digital printer, or trying to find a digital printer to do all our digital printing, and finding screen printers to do our screen printing and all that stuff. Basically, like creating an outsourced network and production chain. And I found someone in Toronto, it didn't work out. Then I found someone in Langley, BC, and this guy was building a digital t-shirt printing studio, or whatever it's called, like a production facility. And he didn't want to do any of the sales and marketing and stuff. He just wanted to become the best printer. So I was like, great, and so we got it on the phone. I'm like, well, I don't want to do any of the printing. You're doing all the printing. I'm at this website. I can bring all this business for you. Can we work together? And so we did. And I started building like a whole supply chain of like, basically like taking the order. It's a custom t-shirt apparel website. So you can upload any image on anywhere in a shirt, and then say magically ship me this printed. So I was able to get that outsourced and get like enterprise larger deals, B2B deals for screen printing. And so we built a separate website for that, or separate like sales funnel for that. Like, hey, you want to order more than 50 shirts, get a quote, because I'd get orders of like 20 sweaters, $3,000. I'm like, whoa, like, I feel like we're screwing people over here. And if people are willing to pay that, I'm sure we can do a better thing. Anyway, so the story is always like just learning, growing, and then figuring out how to fix problems along the way. And then, became a digital, real e-commerce / tech product, really. So ended up being product manager, having an engineering team, product designer, and working on the app and working on the affiliate marketing, the SEO, all that stuff. And it turned into like, I remember like the sales weren't picking up, doing so well. But as soon as I started putting the focus on that, outbound reach outs, I did I went crazy, like sending 100 outbound reach outs a day, like working on SEO strategies, working on affiliate marketing partnerships, which we did all of that. And at some point, like we got on a morning show in Quebec, and it's a funny story. Like I'm like late to work, like it's like 11 a.m. and I'm like in the cab, and then like my partner then calls me, he's like, "Where are you? We have tons of orders. We're on TV." And I'm like, "What do you mean we're on TV?" And then suddenly, boom, something hits the cab, and it was like a dude that was like biking down a hill as fast as you can imagine, crash into the side of the cab as I'm having a conversation with the cab driver. He's okay, I think, but like I'm like, oh, it was a crazy, like eventful day. Anyway, so from then on, like we started really soaring, because we were like, I did an SEO strategy where we were like ranking, top of page for every, any city, province, any keyword combination regarding t-shirt printing or whatever. We were there. And we started building also like custom store builders, which ended up being like what Shopify is right now. And funnily enough, like we were thinking about making that into like a standalone business.
Can I ask you because there's something very key that you mentioned. One of this was like the business was not doing well when it was when it's trying to do its own production. And then you came, I think from what you're saying, you kind of came to the realization that, you know what, we're not that type of company. We're this type of company. How could you explore a little bit of how you arrived at that conclusion?
It's like in the end, like, and it's funny because I'm thinking out loud now, and I'm like, I apply that in my life now too, and a lot of businesses are doing that too. You can't be the best at everything. It's like, and I'm not a printer. We're not t-shirt printers. Like as a recruiter now, I'm like, well, I wouldn't have recruited myself to be a t-shirt printing, person. Um, it's a different. It's like it's production. It's physical, etc. Whereas I was more excited in like having a website, an app that allows you to, in the end, control the flow of customers, and then from there, I mean, sure, eventually we could have. Well, actually, funnily enough, it's what he tried to do when I left, which and did not work. Centralize back everything. Like, oh, we'll do it all ourselves, and it's like, again, what happened? It didn't work because they're not printers. It was a new tech. You have to be passionate about what you're doing, and a real technical person and care, and you have to love it. Those people in BC, they loved it. It was like they lived and breathed it. We didn't love that. We loved digital. We loved, apps or
Now,
whatever.
how hard is it for an entrepreneur to let go of that part of their vision, and then kind of focus on something else?
In what sense? Sorry.
Well, yeah, because like I guess the owner of that company, right, or the founder of that company, like uh, he envisioned, and you just mentioned it, he actually brought it back. He re-centralized like that kind
Yeah, honestly, he wasn't that type of founder. It was more like putting money, like basically seeing an idea that worked in Europe and in the States and thinking, hey, let's try launching this in Canada. And he tried that with like 5 or 6 different things. So that's more on his learning from him about he was my first, apart from my father, who was an entrepreneur as well, and other people in my life. Like he was my first like entrepreneurial mentor in terms of like, how did he even come up with he was in custom t-shirt. He thought it was cool and fun, but he had done custom ringtones. That was his big success in France, and he sold to like big French telecom for that. So it was the same thing of like a marketplace with custom ringtones and stuff. So that's what he saw in this t-shirt thing, and that's why I was like, yeah, well, I totally see that. That's what we should build. And we ended up building that, like a marketplace where you can submit your designs, and we would pay a commission to the designer if their product was sold. And my whole mind got into like more like helping designers and entrepreneurs like launch their brands, because in the end we were able to create their storefront and allow them to display all their products without putting $1 in, because you can just digitally display everything, and if someone ordered it, we would print it on demand, so you didn't have to do any upfront investment to be able to launch your brand. So yeah, so that was so no, it wasn't that part wasn't hard. I think we were really just, again, it's like you get lost in it. You're like, oh, it's like anything. You're like, oh, what are we here? What are we doing? It's like, oh, we have to be really good at printing. Do we? Like, this is what we want to do. Let's do that. So, and let's figure this part out and do it, and let other people do it better.
I guess this first experience that you've been mainly talking about, that's the company Wordans you mentioned.
Yeah. And so that was a great journey. I learned a lot. I was young, and I sort of cut my entrepreneurial chops there. It ended up growing very quickly. We did a lot of other sort of strategic things that made a lot of sense, and I'm very grateful for that experience and opportunity. Unfortunately, with success comes problems, not to quote, to misquote Biggie or Notorious B.I.G. here, but more money, more problems, as they say. And when we started going into that hockey stick curve growth, I was also having health issues, which was difficult to manage, chronic health issues that ended up being for years. Very hard to manage that with the stress of growing, and also these unfortunate, unnecessary problems that stemmed from that growth and success that led me to, I'm going to sort of long story short this, that led me to decide to leave. And I was like, you know what, like I if I was able to build this to here, and I know where it should go, I don't think it will go where I want it to go if I'm not there anymore. I didn't want, I just, because I built that company, and a lot of it, and I had the vision and stuff. But I was like, I know that first of all, I don't want to be part of this anymore, because I didn't agree. My values wasn't agreeing with where, it's very often like when the tough gets going, or when these opportunities happen, etc., things start coming to light that are like, ooh, that's not how things were when we were before, to put it lightly. And I was like, so it just had, I had hired my whole team. They were like my friends and stuff. And I was like, I cannot continue building this, what I saw was to become an empire, hopefully one day, with this value foundation that was a mismatch. And again, not to chime negatively on anyone else. It was just at that moment, every time in everyone's life, we all grow differently and we all learn differently. Just at that moment, I was like, I'm going to make a decision in my road here. It's like, oh yeah, I can be hopefully very rich at a young age and continue building this, but I won't be, it's not where my values are. I'm not happy with how it's going, and I'm not ready to bend on that 1 inch. And versus I'm going to bet on myself and also for my eternal soul, let's say, in terms of like everything that you do in your life helps build who you are for the future. And that was worth more to me than doing stuff that would be against my value system, let's say. So I made sure, like, as much as possible, that I like packaged that company and like, hey, look, golden platter for everyone. You guys can take it to where you want to take it next and grow with it. And it did. I mean, it didn't go, like I said, like where I would have wanted it to go. But it ended up being, relatively global success. And I don't know if it's still running today. I think it is. And so I'm really happy to have made my mark in that regards, actually. And that was my first one, which was like, it was actually during the recession at that time. I remember it was like, oh, what are we going to do? I'm like, well, we have no sales, so we only have one way to go but up. And we did. And so, hired people, helped people in their careers. I think provided a great work environment, made a lot of money for a lot of people in terms of like the partners I worked with, etc. Made a lot of people happy by going above and beyond, by shipping for the bachelor party t-shirts or whatever it might have been. And building a company that continued to employ people and grow and bring value to the world. So I thought, I made my mark here. I don't want to continue making a bigger mark with this. I want to go make my mark somewhere else and let my journey take me there. That was my idea there.
Well, okay. Fantastic. One of the things that's really hard for people to do, and we talked about it, was when I mentioned the quit book, but it's not necessarily quitting, but it's more like knowing when to walk away, like seeing the signs. And I think what you mentioned about values is very important. It plays a very important role in your decision making. What I wanted to ask you is, how did you get to know your values at the time? I mean, some people don't, right? So how do you know?
I mean, I guess it was something that just like my parents or my upbringing and just who I am. I guess I've always tried to be a nice person and to be empathetic and think about other people. And it's sort of like, there's always that inflection point of like, if you're like, oh, if I do this, it's kind of an asshole move to someone else for my benefit. And I'm like, look, there's short-term gain for that. But it's like, sort of like, for me, it's like a easy way out. It's like, oh, if I do that, I'll make money here. But it's like, okay, well, that's an easy way out. And then you still check, the scar or wherever in your body that like you've done that, which is okay. If you've done that in your life, everyone has. I'm sure I have. I've all made mistakes. But when you're able to be conscious about it, it's like, for me, it was like a brave decision. Like, I remember I was like, nobody really understood what, I was like a kid and I was smoking weed back in the day, and everyone was like, oh, I was in school. Actually, I had to I dropped out from university at that point because, I was like, okay, I'm running a freaking startup here. And people were like, well, they didn't understand what I was. My mom and my stepdad really did understand, and I was always grateful about that. And maybe a few people, but they didn't really understand what I was going through. And so I was really alone, or quite alone in that decision making. And anyways, but yeah, it was just a really question of like, it's crazy, but it's like thinking about my potentially eternal soul, or at least my 100 years or 80 years or whatever it may be, versus that right moment here. And knowing very well, like, if I make this decision, I probably walk away from, let's say, millions of dollars, and I might never make millions of dollars, but I'm okay with that. I was like, I'm okay. I'm young, and life is good, and I'll take the small amount of money here that I can get from, relatively small from a previous founder exit, so that I can just, travel, maybe build my own thing next and just be free. Like, that was worth a lot to me. Freedom was worth a lot to me.
Hmm. And so you closed up your time at Wordans, and then you moved on to something else.
Yeah, I mean, I was like, I traveled a bit, and then I was like, okay, I've decided to do something new. Yeah, I mean, this is like, funnily enough, it was like my dad, who's was a bit older than most fathers are at my age, was like, hey, I have an idea. I want to do a job matching website. And I was like, I had no money to launch a company. I had no idea or anything like that. And I was like, and I'm pretty sure I had thought about this before and probably talked to him about it. I don't know. It was somewhere in my zeitgeist. And I was like, and he was like, yeah, we can do this and that. And I was like, and I had met someone through my friend's dad's friend's son, who was also an entrepreneur, who had also exited, a similar sort of thing in his startup. And we were like looking, we had met, we're like, hey, let's figure out, build something together. And then when this came up, I was like, well, he has a good network, of investors and stuff like that. It's a space that's really interesting, jobs and careers and all that stuff. I don't know much about it because I haven't been a candidate much. I went straight to like entrepreneurship, but I hired a bit, at Wardens. I was hiring, and it was not a great experience to hire and all that stuff. And I was like, oh, okay, well, and plus I saw my dad and I was like, he's going to launch a tech startup. He was like 70 or something at the time. I don't know how old he was. And I was like, that, and he went through his own journey of success and failures and all that stuff. And I was like, okay, well, let me jump in on this and let's do this together and let me help you make a success out of here. And that was while I was already working on something else in the more fashion industry still, like clothing, website related. I was like, going to maybe go back into that, and just naturally sort of moved more towards doing that. And that was a whole journey. I mean, I started off like even though like we were like technically co-founders, I started off more as an employee than anything. So, which is good because I wasn't like, I'm his son, so whatever. But it was an uphill battle because in the end, like it was like me and this guy, we were like really pushing the vision and the product and the go-to-market strategy and all that stuff. Whereas my dad was much more on the investors, connecting us with investors and all that stuff, and doing a lot of great things as well. Honestly, like very impressive for especially someone I wouldn't even say of his age because he's such a timeless person. But it was a bit of a it was a big challenge to work with my dad and to work in that sort of. It's very important to have very good foundations when you launch any venture. And starting off, like we were employees with like 1%, it made no sense. And I remember telling my partner at the time, I was like, dude, don't worry. Let's just move forward. It's all going to level out. It's just, I don't pick our battles with the older generation. I don't want to like, let's just like do our thing, prove value. And he's a good man and we're going to be fine. And ended up that we got to that point where we were just three equal partners, which was great. And we raised money and we built the idea. We were in New York selling to all these huge companies, and we went to B2B versus B2C. But I took a lot of what I had learned at Wardens with affiliate marketing and SEO and how to build a product and all that stuff. Basically 50%, which was like how to build a SaaS product and grow one. And then I don't know the other 50%, which is recruitment. I knew nothing about it. I mean, hardly. That's where you get to be creative and figure out how to disrupt. And we did. Like we were. It was going really well, And unfortunately, because of the bad foundations, I'm going to say it like I don't think. Because of those bad foundations, and it's only as much trust that you can put in me, as much as I can emanate trust. Like, hey, it's going to work out. It ended up and it's a lot of stress building a startup. Like a lot. It's a lot of work. It's a lot of unknown. It's a lot of like ups and downs and personalities and all that stuff. So unfortunately, when we were in New York and we were like closing the biggest Omnicom Global, Mercer, 360, all these big companies like sign contracts, there was unfortunately a partnership dispute and it just scuttled everything. It was like, it's impossible. It scuttled everything. It was really too bad because it's like you get that inflection point and you're like, oh shit. I remember being in that like office, big building in New York, like on the conference with lines with all these VP talent, global head, like, hey, we're gonna do this. Yep. Great. Sign another one. Like, it's happening. And then, well, it's happening now. I'm not happy. And if I'm not happy, I'm scuttling it unless we change things. And again, back to the values thing. Well, that's not how I operate.
Mm-hmm. I want to say something because another guest that I interviewed recently, and his episode will air sometime this season as well. He didn't start off as an entrepreneur. He started off like working for other organizations as an employee, and then eventually he developed a relationship with a particular good person in his field as well, and then they just for 2 years they were muddled. They were like kind of like at first it started as a joke, like maybe we should start our own company. Maybe we should and then eventually one day it just happened. He says, okay, we'll do it, And then the advice that this guest gave was, you're going to be married to this person, so make sure you choose wisely. I wanted to ask you, what kind of criteria would you use to choose wisely?
So actually, it's funny because, like, back in my younger days, my dad would tell me, he's like, "Hey, you have to know, the wisdom of the elders." Sometimes we're like, whatever, but it's like then you realize you're like, oh my god, is there, just that's why I love having advisors and stuff. It's like one sentence they can tell you, and it's like transforms your life and what you're building, everything. So he told me you have to get to know someone for 1 year before cementing a partnership. And I was like, and that's why before, like, during that time, I'm learning, like, any red flag you see, like, if you start, so first of all, that's my first advice, is get to know someone for 1 year before cementing anything. Secondly, don't partner with someone because they're XYZ friend of whatever. That's not the reason to partner with someone. It's like you wouldn't marry someone just because they're friends of, it doesn't mean you can't. You can work with friends. That's totally 100. I believe you can work with anyone, like, but that's not the, just don't just start at that, And then if you start seeing any red flags, it's like get that, like, I feel like there's like a women's intuition thing that happens sometimes where it's like, if a woman would be like, I don't, not to be men too, obviously, but like I have a bad feeling. This was a red flag, and they're so often, from what I've seen, much better at identifying these things. Even when I do recruiting and like my hiring managers, they're very like, something was off, and sort of get that signal. It's like, yeah, go towards the green flags. If you see someone who has like only green flags, let's say, Mark, I'm speaking with you, like we're doing this, like I have 0 red flags with you, like 0, but so that's, oh great, that would be a much better potential person to work with than even if I had 1 red flag. And a red flag is a red flag. It's like, oh, you just said something that goes against my values, or you just have something that's like, well, that's, it's funny. Like I play some video games online now where it's called like Arc Raiders, and sometimes it's like you can't trust anyone in the game, and it's I had to learn in the video games, like someone said something and I just brush it off, and then they kill me. I'm like, what the hell? It's supposed to be, you don't know if they're friends or not. And it's like, anyways, it's very much like that. Like, it's like, it is like a, not life or death, but it's like, oh, like a red flag, forget it. Like, it's like in recruiting too. I'm getting to learn that by working with a lot of amazing companies and hiring managers. And that's a good tip for candidates as well. Any red flag, it's like, and it's crazy. It could be like anything. Like you didn't say the thing truthfully, whatever it may be. So those are things to watch out for, I think, and that takes time to develop. And I think that the 1 year thing is also like, well, when the tough gets going, or when everything's coasting, everyone's happy, everything's fine. But like in a year, things can happen. Maybe things slow down. Maybe things go too fast. Maybe things don't go the way they should have. And that's when you start seeing the character a little bit more. So those are some tips I would say. Just choose carefully, be wise. And then in your foundational structures, like how do you build these, like, if you ever get into like legal documents or whatever, try to be get advisors or something to figure out how to do it in a way that allows for mutual freedom without, while incentivizing both parties, not allowing one person to screw over the other or whatever. But you don't want to be locked in, because then you get into like, it's like, oh, let's cement a relationship now. Everyone gets the shares, and then 6 months down, like, oh, I quit. I don't want this. You're like, and I've heard stories from other people like this, and it's like, okay, well, what are you going to do with your shares? And then they ghost you, or like you owe money to the company. You owe money. It's like they ghost you, or whatever it may be, and you're like, fuck. And that ruins the company. Like, I mean, you can try to figure out a way to fix it, but now all your attention is going towards there, and it's such a negative thing. So, like anything, a house, anything, build the foundations well for anything you're doing. That. Yeah.
Oh, okay. And this wisdom that you've garnered is from your, I guess, the two experiences mainly that you talk about, Wordans and Jobbook.
Yeah, and also just along the way, speaking to people, I had the chance to speak to a lot of it. When you jump into something like entrepreneurship, you end up meeting a lot of entrepreneurs and having advisors and all that stuff. So you get to hear their war stories and stuff. So that's why, like, in the end, like, you want to hear from people like, maybe like me, who like, hey, I've failed. I've made these terrible small mistakes that compound. Like if you don't have the foundation well, and the wall cracks, and then the house crumbles, it's not necessarily the wall's fault. It's the foundation, So that's why, like, in my story, it's not. I don't blame any of the people along the way that much. And really, like, especially, like I said, like, and everyone's has in their lives different things they're dealing with, including me. Like, I was not safe all the time, or in a good place all the time. But if the foundations are not there, that's what's to blame. And it's inexperience or just bad. It's inexperience or that caused that in the beginning. So it doesn't help.
And I mean, you speak of advisors and people you learn from. Like, what role or what frequency of presence do mentors have in your life or in your entrepreneurial life?
Yeah, I mean, I've been very lucky to have a lot of mentors, both in my personal and professional life, right? And it's very important to have. It's like, if you go, I mean, I'm not a big, I've done a bit of karate or whatever. I'm not a big person like that, but like, you need a dojo master or whatever to teach you how to become, a black belt or whatever. You can tell I'm not a pro in this, right? Or like a coach in a basketball team or whatever. But yeah, no, for sure. Like mentors, 100%. And it's always like, so it's like, visualize your mentor becoming your students. That's like something I saw on a cardboard sign in LA that was built with like all these weird things. I was probably like a homeless person that built it. And then there was like this crazy sign that said that with a lot of amazing other things in it. And I was like, wow, that's a good one. Yeah, visualize your mentor becoming your students. So that's what happens with mentors. And then advisors is sort of like short-term mentors in a way, where they're typically doing something very amazing in their lives currently, or they've done stuff, and get an hour a month with them, and that's going to change everything you do. It's like they'll have the wisdom. Yeah.
I'm very interested in the mentor thing because, and I'm deliberate in asking because I got my first real mentor. I've had people who have advised me over time, but I got my first real one, or a significant one, like in my mid to late 30s, right? And if I felt like if I had opened my eyes and my ears and my heart in my 20s to it, I would probably not be as late a bloomer as I feel I am right now. Like, how early did mentors play a role in your life?
I mean, if you're lucky, you can be very young and have people that could be, an uncle or whatever, an older brother's friend or whatever, that can play a bit of the role of a mentor in that sense. So it can be very early, right? But like, I think for me, it was probably, I probably had some earlier, like in university, because I was doing like student association things, and I had people that were like sort of mentoring me in that regard. So obviously teachers can be mentors, right? But like, I think, yeah, at Wardens, my first partner there was my mentor. That was like my first real one. I think, if I'm, it's a long time ago, but he was 100% my mentor, and I will always be grateful to everything the opportunity he gave me to build something and to do what I did, and the journey we went through together. Like, always going to be grateful and thankful for that. And I could never do that in university, like by studying or whatever. which is why like it's funny, like it's a different story, like when they're like now internships are so like hard to do, like, oh, you have to have a paid, which is good. There's a lot of stuff that's good about forcing people to pay for an internship, but I don't believe in forcing people to do anything. But like, because if I was young and I had the chance to like, hey, I want to go and intern at this agentic AI startup to learn what it is, and if you can give me the chance to try and work on this, like, I'd be super grateful. Well, sorry, we can't, because we don't want to pay you to do that because we don't have budget for that. It's like, okay, well, I guess I'll stay unemployed, and I don't know, right? So it doesn't, it's like,
and
not learn anything. Like, I'll just go play video games until someone pays. It doesn't make sense to me, that type of stuff, unfortunately. But I do understand there was some sweatshops and stuff like that, sweatshops in Montreal and stuff like that. Yeah, come here, young lawyers, and we'll not pay you, and then they just like take advantage of people. So that, of course, is wrong and terrible. So I understand where it stems from, but anyways, yeah. So finding mentors, like, just be proactive about it, be open to it first of all, like you just said, and then reach out to people. And with a nice little message, I'm sure go on ChatGPT or whatever, Gemini, and ask like, how do I reach out to someone and ask them to be my mentor or my advisor or something, whatever. Maybe mentor is a big word to throw on someone right now, but you got to be intentional. So you're gonna reach out to them on LinkedIn and be like, hey, I love what you're doing. Like, would you have 15 minutes to spare to grab a coffee with me?
Yeah,
a virtual coffee. Start with that. Get a virtual coffee. Oh man, thanks so much. Ask them about what they're doing. Talk to them about what you're doing. Why and be like, if we can have another coffee chat in 30 days, I'd love to continue to learn from you. Oh, sure, of course, I'd love to do that. And then start developing that relationship. But you got to be proactive, and that might be like reaching out to LinkedIn, sending a connection request, following up. Doing it intentionally.
Mm-hmm. One thing I wanted to also kind of dig in a little bit, and it's because it's relevant to me. Like burnout is something that I've had a lot in my career, and I've been working for a while. At least a couple of times where there was quite significant and enough to impact my life. For you, you've mentioned something about health. And I know from our conversations in the past that it might be related to the work that you were doing. Like, can you speak a little bit about how, I guess, the work life can manifest itself, or the stress can manifest itself if you don't listen quickly enough?
I mean, I had a combination of things in my life, including work, but also I found it probably compounded the fact that it made me allergic to marijuana, actually, which is something that was unheard of. And so it probably got triggered by my stress. And then I was coping with the stress by smoking. And then that made me sick. I don't know if it's like all because of that, but it certainly was all correlated. So yeah, I was like, it was not something that was known. Now it's relatively getting known, this thing. It's like something that now that it's legal and they don't talk about it, right? It's really, I used to I'd go to the hospital like 2 times a year for like 10 years. Like, I'd lose 15 pounds in 7 days. I couldn't drink. I couldn't eat. I was throwing up in pain. It was crazy. And like, while I was scaling a startup, while I was going through maybe legal battles, it was like hell. It was a nightmare. Like, I thought I was going to die a few times, like that type of thing.
Wow.
And so, yeah, don't get there, and for anyone who, so obviously I ended up figuring out that stress, number one, and also it's not worth it, right? And you can't do it if you're stressed and all that stuff. But also stop smoking and try to be a little bit more mindful of my health and stuff like that. But yeah, stress and burnouts. I mean, even after all that, when I ended up going into recruitment, my Jobbook was obviously a recruitment technology company. So when I ended up closing it, I decided, well, I'm going to become a recruiter because I wanted to be a master at recruitment and a peer, because I was wanting to go back and potentially build another technology in that space eventually. Not right away, because I was like full PTSD and I was not ready. Yeah, but even after that, I experienced close to burnout. So you have to be mindful. You have to see the signs, and then take it seriously. Because taking a minute to breathe and relax and maybe take some time off and cool down and understand, okay, where are these issues stemming from? Is there some toxicity there? Am I overworking? Is there processes I'm doing? Whatever it may be, right? If you don't address that and you end up burning out, well, then it's way worse, because you can be out for a week, 2 weeks, a month, and those couple hours or days that you might have taken before that to be preventative, it's just obviously way better than working on burnout mode and hyper stress, anxiety, etc.
How do you reconcile the need for because entrepreneurs, right? They're always on the go. Every minute counts. Every dollar counts. Every focus time that you can get, like, it matters, right? And there's a million things that you have to kind of do. You know, you put this, you put it, okay, move this, move that, move it forward. You know, how do you reconcile that with the I guess I'm going to pause. I'm going to take my time here. I'm going to think this through. You know, how do you reconcile that?
Yeah, I mean, that's obviously, I think when I was younger, I was like, actually, another mentor advisor told me, like, he said, you're like the OKC, Oklahoma basketball team. I forget what they're called now, but whatever. I'm like blanking. It was like Kevin Durant, what's his name? Hardman, and the other guy, Westbrook, I think. And they were all young. They were like freshmen or whatever it's called, like, rookies. And they were just fast, go, go, go. And they were the fastest, the more energetic. And then he told me this, like, you got to be like those guys and just go fast. And that was because I was younger. But when you get older, it's like, no, that's stupid. They never won it. They didn't win a championship. I mean, that's all they can do at that point, right? Because it's like, but when you get older and more wise and stuff, you realize, like, it's not about going fast. And, I mean, it is in a certain respect, but it's like, for me now, at least now that how I'm approaching it for my new things I wanted to build now, I'm like, take my time, be intentional, and when we get into the water to go swimming, then it's like, okay, now we're in the game, let's say. But still, at that point, like, I don't feel, anyway, we'll see how that goes, right? But like, I don't feel like I don't want to, and I don't think I need to be as like reactive, fast, go, 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 as I was. And yeah, and I think that's playing the long game a little bit more and being more mindful and strategic. And obviously getting things done, and because okay, how can I say this? And I actually used to think like that too. Like I work with people in New York, and for them it was like, in New York, it's like you had to do 11-hour days or 12-hour days, and then you go to the gym and you got to take a hammer and hit something. And if you didn't do that, like, to do the workout, and if you didn't do that, you were not succeeding. And I was like looking at that, and I was like, no, actually, I remember now, I was already thinking like this. I don't believe that that's the case. I don't think you need to do 11 hours a day, go, go, go. I think it's more about like being smart and strategic and doing the right things, right? So it's like that image of like going on top of the mountain. Well, I'm going to sprint, zigzag across the mountain, and then I'll get to the top, versus, well, maybe, oh, look, there's some stairs here, or there's an elevator, like, let's press the button and go up. So that actually was always my mentality. Not always, but like at least at the Jobbook days. And that's how I feel now. Like, it's like, oh, we have to do this big, like right now I have this big project, big endeavor. It's like, okay, go, go, go. No, let's take a step back. It's like, what's his name? MC Solar, one of his rhymes, he goes in French, though, he says, to go forward, you have to step back, because stepping back is going forward. Mm-hmm. Prendre de l'avance, c'est prendre du recul. Car prendre du recul, c'est prendre de l'avance, right? So it's like, yeah, take 2 steps back before moving forward, because that you're going to move forward a lot more like that. So I always had that, and as you can tell, a lot of wise people are sharing that type of knowledge through music. Maybe less so now, but at least back in the day they were.
Awesome. That's really good, because I've worked in companies where, like it's a mom and pop shop, or like it's a small firm, or it's a startup, or it's a restart up, and the trap that usually they fall into is, I've got to do a million things, so I'm going to do a million things, and then they don't stop to think that maybe there's only 1 or 2 of those things that you should be doing now.
Yeah, actually, I've learned, again, it's like prioritizing, I don't really do it anymore, but like I should, but having a list of priorities and like always doing the thing that's on top. I think that's what it was. And especially nowadays with agentic AI and stuff, it's like, no. Like, the complete, and I get trapped in it too. It's like I'm like working, and I'm like, oof, I'm so like my calendar's completely full. I'm swamped, and I'm always trying to figure out how to 10x. But it happens to me. I have to give myself a sanity check, and I'm trying to do so quarterly now because things are moving so quickly. It's like 2 years ago I figured out, or 3 years ago I figured out a 10x what I was doing, and I was like, oh, I did, and like boom, and then I was like, okay, I am now behind with technology and all that stuff, and I will still probably 10x most, but I'm like, there's people now that are, so I'm like, okay, figure it out. Okay, I just 10x again, and that was like a quarter ago, or let's say a bit more, and now I'm like, oh no, I am again needing and able to 10x, and that's happening right now. And I got a wake up call again, like where it's like it happened a couple of days ago. I was like, oh, I have an opportunity to do something really big that I cannot scale right now. And do I scale it quick, hire people? I mean, obviously, eventually, yes, hire people, but like, no, like take 2 steps back, look at and system design, agentic AI, etc. So I'm not going to go into the details of that, but like my point is like more than ever, you have to think strategically, and what there's tools, there's people, there's places that are out there that are created for you and that will help you in whatever you're trying to build and do. And it's sort of like the universe conspiring to allow you to do such things, which is crazy. Because like now, if I wanted to launch a startup versus 3 years ago, it's completely different. Like 3 years ago, if I wanted to build something, I'd have to like raise $500,000 to build something like a tech product with API connections and the scraper, whatever it may be, right? And hire all these people and hire an accountant and hire. I mean, fine, I still hire these people, but like it's a whole different ball game now. Like now you can have an idea and have it vibe code or vibe code it yourself in 2 days and go to market and test it and then build a business plan using Gemini. So if you're not intentional about that, taking the time to learn, which I'm not doing enough of because I don't have time, but I'm trying to get more into it, staying on top of the latest things and learning and like seeing how other people are doing it and speaking to people and listening to podcasts like yours, you're going to be behind the 8 ball. And so rather than head down, do it like I'm used to doing it, it's already too late. And so you're already behind it. And instead you have the chance today. I mean, most people have, let's say, started 2 years ago. Now they have to pivot and shift, which is a challenge in itself. But now you have the chance today to start something using all the tools and people that are at your disposal by the universe today to do your idea, let's say, or to do anything you want to do, even in your career, in your job right now. If you have to start thinking, okay, like again, I want to talk about AI, but it's like, if I'm not using AI, why not? What am I not getting here? Or if I am, how do I use it better? And it doesn't have to be just AI; it can be anything. Right. So yeah,
it's interesting. You are not afraid of adopting technology and then using it to enhance whatever you do. I know a lot of people are. Like they see it and they said, "That's taking my job," and it probably will.
I had someone say I have the chance to like speak to a lot of like CEO founders because I'm like recruiting for CEO founders. So it's a lot of fun. So I'm getting to like learn a lot. And someone said to me recently, or I think it was an engineering manager. He said you shouldn't be afraid of AI replacing your job. You should be afraid of people who know how to use AI replacing your job. Yeah. So that's what it is. And I'm telling you, I'm seeing it right now. It's like from employers. It's like, okay, it's going a lot faster than you think. Where it's like, oh, I want people who know how to use AI, or who not only know how to use AI are doing it. And again, if you don't have the chance to do it in your current workspace, take some time outside work hours, start a project, build something, log into whatever platform, N8 and Zapier, Google, Gemini, ChatGPT, whatever. Get a certificate. I don't care. Just start doing something and unlock. Google, how do I say your customer success? How do I use AI in customer success? How do I use AI in success? There's going to be so much AI. Go on AI, ChatGPT, and chat with it. Ask, how do I use AI for what I'm doing? And be like, I don't know anything about AI. How would I start? Use AI to use AI. You know what I mean? It's crazy, right? But you have to start. And that's actually a friend of mine that helped talk. He's an engineer and it's AI first engineer, and it's like almost all AI now. And it's like he started making me unblock, which is like, you're not thinking AI first, you're thinking wrong. And I'm still not, AI is not there yet for everything, right? So I'm still reticent on a few things, but what I'm interested in and exciting is ethical AI. So again, like, how do I use AI in an ethical way? So even like in my recruiting process, which I don't want to get into, but like, how do I make sure I use AI in a way that maintains that same connection that we had of like caring and empathy? That's all about processes and workflows and making sure that human in the loop. I don't want to go too far into that, but just in general, I'm very much excited to hear it, and always looking for folks that are into. If you're into AI, then you're into ethical AI as well, because the idea is not to replace. In my like, I hear that, oh, it's going to take everyone's jobs. I hope not. I mean, that's not cool, But to have AI as a tool to next what you want to do, or to do what you dream of doing but you never could have before, that's exciting and interesting, for people, but embrace it. And it's like any tool, a knife, it's a sharp object. It can be used to slice a piece of bread and give a piece to a friend and share bread, or it could be used to stab someone. So it's not the tool, the problem, it's how you use it, so.
And I guess the last bit I wanted to ask you is, what are you trying to do now? I mean, now you've gone through your big at least twice, like with the entrepreneurships, what are you trying to do now?
Yeah. So like I said, like after I closed my previous company, unfortunately, we did our best. And that was actually going back to your like, quit while you have to quit. Like I shook so many hands of people, and I was like, I'm going to go till the end of this and do everything I can to make this work. And that was my value set, which was very difficult to follow. I've had people say like, oh, why don't you close it and quit? I'm like, listen, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, as they say, so I went 10 years, and it was great, but also really difficult. I had to I told you, but like when the company got scuttled, I ended up relaunching a company from the ashes, in debt, taking basically like taking a sunken ship from the ocean and then rebuilding. It was very difficult. So I think I did quite well in those circumstances, but it was not. It was very hard to make happen. Unfortunately, we were close, but whatever. So anyway, so after that, I was like, okay, well, I had the chance. I had like customer advisory board, and one of the members was like, hey, well, I can introduce you to this person. No, sorry, she was my customer advisory board, and she's like, well, we're recruiting like crazy, and if you want to help us recruit, I'd be super open to it. So that was a company called Noibu, and I ended up recruiting for them, and they hyperscale company. They were like Canada's second fastest growing tech company. That's where I got the chance to like build. I like really helped scale that team a lot. I learned a lot of like how to do it, and I did it as a sort of like my own contract agency sort of position that I was launching. And from then I was like, okay, I need to get, after I did that for like a year or so, my goal was to work with multiple clients, but like they were scaling so quickly that they were like, Antoine, we need you to do this. Like, okay, let's go. So I did that, and then I was very grateful for. And then I thought I was at an inflection point. Like, what do I do? And I was like, I think I need to go into corporate. I never did working in a large company, like a publicly traded company or whatever. So I ended up working on a contract with Lightspeed, and made a lot of great friends there, and it was amazing. Honestly, I loved it. But during that journey there, that's when I uncovered some pain points and stuff. So, and I had like a little flash, like, ooh, I think I figured out a pain point that could be a potential tech product solution. And that's when I realized, like, oh my God, I think I have PTSD. Because even though I had like finally like a great potential, like a problem and a pre-vetted solution, probably, I was like, I'm not ready to do this. Like, I'm still like dealing with it a bit. So I'm working on that now on the side, which is really fun. I won't talk about it a lot, but it's related to my time in recruitment and compensation, and sort of the disconnect there between the compensation, the business, and recruiting, and how it just affects everyone, the candidate's experience, the employer's experience, the employees. I mean, it's real mess. And I think I figured out a really good way to solve that. So that I'm excited. I'm working on that on the side. But apart from that, I'm looking to scale my recruiting agency. So working with amazing companies, tech startups, tech scale ups, different companies, and helping them recruit great candidates. And along the way, it was always my ethos at Jobbook before, when we were building this recruitment tech, was about really making the candidate experience first, human centric, like a non-negotiable, and I think it was so important for like not only the candidates, but also for the employer in terms of their brand and everything, but also just me and my life. I'm like, again, I'm coming from an external point of view, and I understood why it's not like that. It's like systems and repetitive. And listen, the recruiters are like, can be burnt out or doing the same thing, like, mundane, repetitive things. And it's hard for them to remember, like, hey, this is exciting and fun. I'm speaking to people and I'm helping them change their careers and grow in their careers or whatever it may be, or helping them find an amazing job, which is life changing. We forget that sometimes. So sometimes it's periodical, even me, So I don't blame anyone. Like, I'm just trying to always inspire people to think like that. So that's very important for me, like in everything I do. And I'm really grateful and happy to have the chance to impact even everyone who does not, because like this is the sad truth. Like, 1% or less of the people are going to get hired, so for the job, like 99% for, more than 99% of people are, if it could have either a terrible experience, a bad experience, an okay experience, or a good experience, or a great experience. And that's a lot of people. That's a lot more people than get hired. So that's why I'm like, well, let's not. And again, it's very selfish to think, I was going to think about. It's not even selfish. It's short-sighted to think, well, I just care about the one who got hired. It's like, well, what about the 99 other people that are now in your network, your community? So hey, maybe they'll invite you on a podcast. If you do well. So but for real. So I'm like, that's always my. So I'm not going to step away from that. I think I want to keep building and growing my agency to help more people connect with great opportunities and more companies in their growth. It's very important for companies that are, they're entrepreneurs like I was or I am. They're like, hey, I have this idea. I want to make it work. I'm trying to disrupt something, hopefully for the better. Maybe it's going to change the way hospitals work. Maybe it's going to change the way, entrepreneurship changes the world, right? Like, that's a big thing. Like, small and medium-sized businesses that have impact in people's lives. If you buy something voluntarily or participate in something, it's because you wanted it more often than not. So for me to be able to help, take my experience, my career as a founder, as a product manager, as a salesperson, as a marketing person, and be able to take that and help, and obviously as a recruiter now, help companies who are scaling find amazing teammates and team members quickly and at the right price, and be like, oh man, we're building a killer team who's going to help us succeed. And then those people will be like, I'm in an amazing culture in place where I can succeed and grow together. That for me is like, it's like a great thing that I'm able to make my mark for on a regular basis. And if I can scale that and keep helping more people and more businesses in that regards, and again, in my way, disrupt what traditional recruiting agencies or processes may be that unfortunately for me are a bit legacy now. And again, whether it's from the candidate experience perspective or just like bringing actual value that we should be in terms of like, hey, let's find you that perfect, close to perfect candidate that'll change your practice, your business, whatever. I think is something that I'm very passionate about now and want to continue scaling and doing and growing and leading by example. Hopefully others are going to be like, yeah, we should do that way too. Great. Well, the more of us do that, the more we're going to help small, businesses and people thrive. So that's what I'm focusing on now. I'm working on some tech ideas or products on the side, both for my agency, but also for that potential product that I'm working on. And apart from that, obviously not getting too lost in just work and stuff like that, trying to live life and enjoy it to the fullest.
Good. Wow. That's quite a lot on your plate.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, honestly, like, that's the thing. Sometimes you're scared. Like, even before this interview, this podcast, I was like, oh my God, I'm so scared. I told you before, I'm like, I'm actually like nervous. Like, what are you talking about? I'm like, when you're in it, it's like, you're in it. It's like before a sports game or before anything. You go on stage. I remember the first time I went on stage to present my pitch, my startup idea. my vision went black, but the more you do it, the better. So same thing, like the startup that I'm working on, I'm still PTSD, but I know I'm reminding myself, like, once I get in there, like even here with my agency, like I'm seeing this, like I didn't want to scale. At first I was like, I'm a one-man show, I'm going to automate, and like, I don't want to scale. I wasn't ready. I didn't want to do this again, but now I'm just like, it's coming. And I'm speaking to someone who's like, I can tell maybe would love to have the opportunity to work with me and grow as I'm growing. And that happened this morning. And I'm like, oh, she's probably not, or this person's probably not happy or fulfilled where they are now. And I have the chance to maybe help them feel fulfilled and help them, and they help me grow. So I'm like, okay, stop being scared and go for it. And again, like, opportunity knocks because you make your luck, right? So like, by working hard and being nice and caring and going the extra mile, like at Wordans, I used to like literally go the extra mile. I used to, after my wedding is tomorrow, a Saturday, the t-shirts weren't shipped. What the hell? And they live an hour and a half away from Montreal. I'm like, I'm going to the post office. I'm going to drive and ship it to you. And I went to the post office. I'd go to the post office and be like, well, we don't do that. I'm like, the box is in the back. Go get it. And then I'd drive for an hour and a half, go hand deliver it. And that was part of the success there too. But my point is, like, by doing all that, you make your own luck. And then when opportunity knocks, I mean, this is for me too right now in my life, like when opportunity knocks, answer and don't be scared and go for it. But again, 2 steps back, don't jump in head first, because it's like, well, now I have other people that I might be bringing in. That's why I was wanting to go alone first. It's like, well, the only risk is for me. But if I start bringing other people in, and now I'm bringing other people's lives, I got to do it right. Like, even for my family and all that stuff, it's like, got to do it right. Be smart. Don't take uncalculated risks. Is where I'm, for me, and for hopefully the people that are listening as well, right? So, yeah.
Well, I think that might have answered the question I usually ask. It's what's the overarching advice that you would give?
Well, yeah, that's a tough one. In terms of like, how do you make your mark? Well, I think believe in yourself always. We have had it. I've realized that when we were growing up, like, a lot of people have had the chance to have like parents or people will be like, "You're so great." I'm saying I've had I'm not gonna say I had that too, but like maybe less than I would have needed sometimes. It's like, you're so great, you can do anything you want in life. Versus like, you can't do that, or like, what, you want to try to do that? Like, forget it. Like, just remember and tell yourself that, if not, like, you are great. You can do whatever you want, which would remind you to, it's okay to fail.
Mm-hmm.
What's worse is not trying, because then you're going to be like on your rocking chair, like, I wish I would have tried and I never did, and whatever. But it's okay to try and fail. And if you don't try and fail, you're never going to learn. I tried and failed twice, and hopefully it's going to succeed now. I mean, I'm in the middle of what I think is good success, what I feel is good success. And if I hadn't have tried and failed, even though I had successes along the way as well, if I hadn't failed multiple times over, I wouldn't be here. It's like, if you don't, as a toddler, when you start walking, you fall, you hurt yourself. I mean, that's how it goes, right? It's like, so I'd say that. And then, so believe in yourself. It's okay to fail. Carve out time to, depending on where you're at in your life, it's like, oh, I'm stuck in something, like, try to carve out time to do something new that might bring you to where you want to be. And even if it's 20 minutes a week, put in a calendar notification, put 20 minutes, like, do this, put it recurring, make it 10 minutes, whatever it is, just to get into the habit,
Mm-hmm.
and then you're like, you get your feet wet a little bit and like, oh, this wasn't so hard. It's like, oh, this is easy. And I'm literally I'm going through this right now. And it's always like that. It's like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm not ready for it. And then you get into it. You're like, oh, okay. Well, when you're in it, you're in it. It's different. Or else it's all like shadows on the wall. Like, what is this? I'm afraid. So yeah, that's not one overarching thing. But I'd say believe in yourself. Don't be afraid to fail. Just start. Start doing whatever you want to do, and start trying things. Take that leap of faith that you feel in your heart. Yeah, that would be, and care about what you're doing and yourself and other people.
Yes.
As much as possible.
Amen. Oh my God. There's so much in this episode, Antoine. Thank you so much for taking the time to talk with me about this. And hopefully the audience will see it as well.
Well,
No, go
I
ahead.
was going to say thank you. Thanks for having me. I mean, I never thought that I would be, anyways, having a podcast and sharing these type of things. So happy. I hope it, helps a little bit in any way. So
Perfect. If anyone's compelled by this podcast and they want to reach out to you, how do they reach out to you?
yeah, so I mean, okay, if you want to reach out to me, okay, so my email is Antoine at debrabant.co. So that's DEBRABANT as in Thomas.co. My website is debrabant.co. You can go on my LinkedIn, Antoine de Brabant, and connect with me there. Always happy to. And, you can try that thing which is like 15-minute coffee chat, who knows? I probably won't say no. If I get 100, I'll be like, oh my God, why did I say that? But, who knows? Maybe I'll do, if I get 100, I'll do a podcast. I'm teasing, but for sure, feel free to reach out. If you want career advice, you're looking for a job, entrepreneurial advice, anything, even just like async on messaging or whatever. I can't guarantee I have a job for you, but what I often do, we talk about this, like if I'm talking to a candidate and I see their LinkedIn profile, it's not right. I'm like, hey, or even if I'm like, hey, dude, your LinkedIn profile is not demonstrating properly who you are. So I'll give you another piece of advice for career people. Like, make sure your LinkedIn profile follows this rule. 3 seconds, it pitches me who you are, so I'm interested. So I can want to spend 33 seconds to read more. And in 33 seconds, you want me to spend 333 seconds. It's like a marketing thing. So in 3 seconds, get me to want to put 33 seconds, and 33 seconds, get me to want to put 333 seconds. And it's all on LinkedIn. Your resume is part of the 333 seconds. So anyway, so those are the type of things I can also give advice on. It's like, but your LinkedIn profile, put it on Gemini or ChatGPT. It'll help you a lot already. But anyways, yeah, I'm rambling a bit, but that's how you reach out to me.
Okay. By the way, that last bit was really good with the 333, 303.
Yeah, no, but it's crazy. You have people that have like amazing careers and stuff, and like maybe they haven't had to apply for a job in a long time, or no one teaches you how to apply to jobs. And it's funny, like I was training someone and she saw how I was recruiting. I can't believe the mind of a recruiter is so different. It's like next. Like and I go a bit further because I care and want to give everyone a chance. But like if in 3 seconds, your headline, and if it doesn't, someone used to say like, if it looks like a duck, it talks like a duck, it walks like a duck, it's a duck. So you want to get to at least that, your headline, whatever it is, in 3 seconds, be like, don't bury the lead. It's like, I am an account manager at SAS. Okay, boom. Okay, that's what I'm looking for. Then what did you do? And then, okay, let's go deeper dive, anyways, that's a whole, I would have loved to go through that in a little bit more, but hit me up.
Perfect. Well, thank you very much, Antoine. For those of you in the audience who have made it this far, I really appreciate it. You know what? Let's see you on the next one. Take care.